There is a video that has circulated online for years. A soldier returns home after 18 months of deployment. His dog, a golden retriever, is in the backyard. The moment she hears his voice through the sliding glass door, before she can even see him clearly, she begins to tremble, not in fear, in recognition. She knows him. She has always known him. And when the door opens, she collapses into him with a kind of relief that seems almost too large for her body to contain. We watch videos like that and we call it sweet. We say dogs are loyal. But what we rarely stop to consider is what's actually happening inside her. What she is doing in that moment is remembering. And the science of how she does that and what she holds on to is far more remarkable than the word loyalty can carry. This is what dogs remember. When a dog hasn't seen someone in years, 2 years, 3, 5, and then that person walks through the door, the reunion can look almost violent in its intensity. There's research to explain this, and it begins with scent. A dog's nose contains roughly 300 million olfactory receptors. Humans have about 6 million. The part of a dog's brain dedicated to analyzing smell is, proportionally, about 40 times larger than ours. She doesn't just smell you, she reads you. Your emotional state, your history, your identity, all at once and with extraordinary precision. Scent memory in dogs is more durable, more chemical, more permanent than our memory for faces or names. Studies on long-term olfactory memory in mammals suggest that scent associations, once formed strongly, can persist for the lifetime of the animal. Your dog cannot forget what you smell like. It's woven into her in a way that years cannot unravel. Layer onto that the research showing that dogs process familiar voices in a distinct region of the brain, and you understand why the reunion looks the way it does. She isn't just happy to see you. She is experiencing the flooding return of something she stored precisely and completely years ago. And this is why the loss of a person is not a simple thing for a dog to navigate. When dogs are surrendered to shelters or when an owner dies, shelter workers describe it consistently. A dog who is otherwise healthy, otherwise sociable, who simply stops eating, who stands at the door of her kennel and looks toward it with something that is difficult to name without using a word we usually reserve for humans. She's not confused. She's waiting for someone who, by every measure she has, should return. The scent is still in her memory, the voice is still there, and no one has told her the person is gone because no one can. A 2016 study from the ASPCA found that 35% of dogs showed significant behavioral changes after losing a companion animal. Another dog, a cat they had lived with, appetite loss, lethargy, a behavior called searching, moving through the house, checking the places the other animal used to be. These are not random stress behaviors. They are the behaviors of a creature whose memory is working exactly as designed, replaying what was and finding it absent. Dogs grieve because they remember what they have lost. Here is a question worth sitting with for a moment. When you look at your dog, do you know what she's carrying? Not what she knows about today, but what she's kept from before she found you. A dog who was hit raises her head differently. You might have seen this without knowing what you were seeing. A flinch when a hand moves overhead, a tension that enters the body when a voice rises in pitch, a wariness around certain objects or certain types of people that seems inexplicable. It is not inexplicable. It is memory. The body keeps a record that the mind cannot articulate, but also cannot release. The research on trauma in dogs mirrors what we know about post-traumatic stress in humans. Dogs who have experienced abuse or a single acute traumatic event can develop hypervigilance, startle responses, and fear that is triggered not by actual danger, but by sensory cues associated with past danger, a sound, a smell, a posture. These triggers can appear years after the original event in a dog who has otherwise been living safely in a loving home. Safety doesn't erase the memory, it coexists with it. But here is the other side of that. A dog who was loved, held gently, fed reliably, never given reason to fear, leans into strangers. She approaches with an openness that comes from a body that has learned repeatedly that the world generally means well. Early kindness is not forgotten. It becomes posture. It becomes the angle of an ear, the looseness of a shoulder, the way she walks into a new room. The body keeps the record of kindness just as faithfully as it keeps the record of harm. And the memory goes back further than we might think. Studies on canine scent recognition have found that dogs can identify their mother by scent even after years of separation, and can recognize littermates. Research also suggests that dogs separated from their mothers before the normal weaning period tend to show differences in how they relate to other dogs, in their ability to read canine social cues. The early bond leaves a mark. Its absence also leaves a mark. Both are forms of memory. Spatial memory works the same way. A dog who was frightened at the vet will show signs of stress, elevated heart rate, panting, pressed back ears before she enters the building. Sometimes in the parking lot, sometimes at the turn onto the street. She has mapped the route and associated it with what happened there, and the location itself becomes the trigger. On the gentler end, a dog who found something thrilling in a particular place, a deer, a rabbit, will pull toward that spot on every walk that passes near it. She remembers what happened there. She wants it to happen again. Here is the second question for you today. Have you ever noticed your dog behaving differently in a specific place and wondered why? There is a good chance she is not reacting to what's in front of her. She's reacting to what she remembers. The science of dog memory has grown considerably in the past decade, and one of its most important developments is the study of episodic-like memory, the capacity to recall specific events, not just general patterns. For years, this was assumed to be uniquely human. Then came the do-as-I-do studies, most notably the work of Claudia Fugazza and Adam Miklosi in Hungary, in which dogs observed a human performing an action and were later asked to reproduce it, after a delay, and with no reason to expect the test was coming. They could. This is not conditioned behavior, this is a specific event held and retrieved deliberately. What dogs don't do is remember the way we remember, with narrative, with language, with events arranged on a timeline. Their memory is more immediate, more sensory, more anchored to emotion and place and body. Not worse, different. And in some dimensions, scent, in particular, vastly more sophisticated than ours. Which brings us to what happens when you leave the room. Research using fMRI imaging in awake, trained dogs has shown that when a dog is presented with the scent of her owner, not a stranger, not a familiar person, but specifically the person she lives with, a region of the brain called the caudate nucleus activates. This is the region associated with anticipation of reward, with pleasure, with the expectation of something good. Your scent, alone without your presence or your voice, produces in her brain the neural signature of waiting for something wonderful. There is also evidence that dogs may be able to detect, not just that you are here, but roughly when, based on the concentration of scent molecules that thin and fade over time. Some researchers propose this as one explanation for why dogs seem to anticipate their owner's return. They may literally be able to smell how long it has been. She's not just missing you when you're gone, she's holding you in the most precise way available to her, using the oldest and most reliable system she has. We talk about what we give our dogs: food, shelter, walks, attention. But there is something quieter that we give them whether we intend to or not, and that is memory. We become part of what they carry. The kindness we show them doesn't just make them happy in the moment, it writes itself into them permanently, becomes the texture of how they move through the world. The cruelty does the same, the loss does the same, the reunion does the same. She remembers you. She has remembered you the entire time you were gone. She carries you in the shelter, in the new home, in the parking lot of the vet, on the trail where she found the deer. She carries you with an exactness that doesn't fade or distort, because it has no reason to. The question was never whether dogs remember. The question is whether we understand, fully and with the seriousness it deserves, what that means. If this video made you think about your dog differently, about what she's carrying, what she's kept, leave a like. It helps me reach more people who care about their animals. Share it with someone who loves a dog. And if you want to keep going deeper into the inner lives of animals, subscribe. There's a lot more here worth knowing.